fried mush. Oscar Cabot was running to get to class. This was nearly a daily routine with him, as he always seemed to be running close on time. He tried to straighten his wrinkled uniform and pulled at his bow tie, trying to make it appear neat. Oscar was tall and thin, with a look of being timid and weak. He would look away as you would talk to him, as if he were staring into space, not sure how to answer. He would then surprise you with an intelligent answer. His upbringing was not of the elite society that the rest of his classmates had enjoyed. Oscar had made it into the prestigious university on his own by passing the intense tests that he considered easy. He was highly intelligent. Oscar was also a dreamer, which sometimes caused him trouble. This made no difference to his classmates and others that constantly bullied and made fun of him. Oscar was an easy target. Oscar made it to his class and sat just in time for Professor Glum to see that he had made it, being the last one in. Professor Glum was a harsh, ancient professor, one of the elite's top colleagues, who was intimidating and strict. He poured out his philosophy of being of society more than the physical elements of science he was to be teaching. He was quick to point out flaws whenever he could. This was true as he confronted Oscar when he was the last to be seated, saying to him, "Well, I am so glad to see that you brought your wrinkled shirt and crooked tie to join my class, Mr. Cabot. Do you plan on giving us this display every day?" The class broke out in laughter. Oscar, after a moment, answered, "I will try to do better tomorrow, sir." "Your tomorrow is here, young man. Do not waste a moment to see that those around you are leaving you behind." The professor then went into one of his long lecturing speeches on being able to fit into society and the willingness that one must measure a man by their appearance and actions. Oscar stared into the space in front of him. He did not hear what Professor Glum was saying. He was thinking about the man he had met just several days ago. Oscar had been walking home from class when he literally ran into an old, bearded man that was walking the same street. When Oscar looked up, the man was still staring down, talking in a strange language. Then the man looked up at Oscar and said, "Wow, that was quick." "I'm sorry, sir, I wasn't watching where I was going." "It seems that you have arrived exactly where you were headed, young man." "Sorry, sir, I don't understand." "You will soon. I just asked about you and didn't know I was going to get an answer so soon." "Sir, I still don't understand." "Right. Come take a walk with me while I explain." Oscar was intrigued by the man and felt the urge to go along with him. As they walked, the old man told Oscar, "I have recently been pondering retiring from my present duty. I am in search of an apprentice to take my position. I was just asking the spirits to help me find a suitable replacement. That is when we ran into each other. I would like you to meet me in 3 days. I will then know if you can handle the position." "I don't know what it is you do. How would I know if I want to take over for you, if I don't know what you do?" "My name is Draziu Amai. You will know what I do by the next time we meet. I hope to see you in 3 days." The man walked away, seemingly to disappear as Oscar thought about what the man had said. Oscar was suddenly stunned out of his trance. Professor Glum was now standing directly in front of Oscar. Oscar said what was on his mind. He said out loud, "I am a wizard." The room burst into laughter, and Oscar saw the look on Professor Glum's face turn to embarrassment and anger. The professor shouted, "Stop! Stop the laughter!" The room became silent, and the professor went into a rage, yelling at Oscar, "Get up! Get up in front of the class!" as he furiously pointed to the front. Oscar went to the front as he was told. The professor then moved a stool to one side and told Oscar to sit on the stool. The professor then went to a closet and reached in and found a pointed hat. He placed the hat on Oscar's head, then said to the class, "This clown's hat has not been worn in many years. I have not had the pleasure to put it on such a buffoon in nearly a decade. I would like for all of you to see the very misguided person that represents the majority of people that believe there is some sort of magic in the world. You gentlemen will be the ones working the magic with science. Please now laugh at the buffoon." The room broke into laughter and a chant started. "Buffoon! Buffoon! Buffoon!" Oscar could feel the anger swell in him. He could do nothing but sit embarrassed and belittled. The class was over, and Oscar was standing at the blackboard writing. The professor told him how childish it was to believe in magic. He made Oscar write, "There is no magic and no wizards," over and over. It was late when the professor finally let him go home. Oscar walked down the gas lamp-lit street. He was walking slowly and not in any hurry to get home. He was mumbling to himself that he would need to try much harder at fitting in and pleasing his teachers. He was looking down as he walked, still embarrassed from the day's events. He then stopped and looked up. It was the old man standing under one of the street lamps. Oscar slowly made his way to where the man was standing. The man said, "You look like a broken soul." Oscar looked into that space in his head he went to think. He then said, "I know what you do." "Is that right, young man? And what makes you think you know this?" "When you told me the other day that I would know what you do by the next time we meet, I first thought you meant you would tell me when we met. I then understood that you had given me the answer and you wanted me to figure out the riddle." "Very good, and what did you come up with?" "You told me your name was Draziu Amai. That is, I am a wizard." The old man started laughing and clapping his hands together, saying loudly, "Excellent, my young man. You have passed the first test." Oscar then told him, "The reason I am coming home so late is because when I figured it out, I said it out loud in my class. The professor became furious with me and made a mockery of me in front of the entire class. They all think I'm crazy or delusional with the thought that there is magic in the world." "Oh, my young apprentice, there is magic in things unseen that is kept secret from those that call you crazy. But how would I possibly know that is true? I have never seen any magic that wasn't a trick of the eye or smoke and mirrors. Let's have some fun with this. I will go to class with you tomorrow. Then you can be laughed at again when you tell them who I am and what I am. Then I will show you something that will change your mind." "I don't know. That sounds as though I could be in a lot of trouble if you are not a true wizard. And what is your name?" "I am Ardor. And your name is?" "I am Oscar Cabot." "Well, Oscar Cabot, if you decide to take me up on the offer, we will certainly need to change your name. How could you convince me that you are what you say?" "The best way to start this relationship would be to trust me. I will meet you tomorrow and you will take me to class." "Oh, and you will need to bring a scuttle. That would seem to work best." "What on earth do I need a scuttle for?" "Trust, my young man, trust." Ardor walked away and again seemed to disappear. Oscar stood standing for quite some time, wondering what was happening. Oscar was running late as usual. He kept looking and did not see Ardor anywhere. He felt a little odd carrying the scuttle up the stairs and into the building. He made it to the room and the lid on the scuttle clanged, making the class aware he had arrived. Much to Oscar's amazement, there, sitting in among the other students, was Ardor. Oscar found an empty seat beside Ardor. Then Professor Glum, in his astute manner, noticing not only Oscar being late bringing in the scuttle, but the man sitting next to him that didn't belong in the class. Professor Glum's arrogance showed as he wasted no words. "Well, here we all are again, and I see this time, Mr. Cabot, you have managed to not only bring your wrinkled shirt and crooked tie, but somehow have managed to drag a scuttle in with you. I must ask if this man that sits next to you is something that also followed you to class today?" The laughter was not loud but noticeable. All attention was glued to Oscar's response. Ardor told Oscar, "Go ahead, let them know." Oscar stood up and told Professor Glum, Yes, sir, this man is here with me today. Okay, Oscar, could you please let us all know why you have brought this man with you today? Yesterday you had me write on the blackboard that there is no magic and no wizards, as everyone can see as it is still on the board. I have Ardor the wizard with me today. The class broke out in laughter. Professor Glum hung his head in disbelief. After the laughter settled, Professor Glum said to Oscar, I see. Then you must be ready to perform some sort of magic for us. Is that correct? Well then, let's have the two of you come up here in front of the class, where we can see what trickery you have to entertain us with. Oscar and Ardor moved to the front of the room. Professor Glum could not help himself but to add on his words. Now, class, this will be an excellent time to prove to you just how silly it is to believe in magic. Watch closely, and you will see the wizard trick your eyes. The professor continued to ramble on about what Ardor was about to do. Ardor then said, Say no more. The professor suddenly could not speak. He rubbed at his throat. The class went silent. Then Ardor started a run of words, saying, Zumbadi, Zumbadum. What shall they become? Frogs. Suddenly all the students in the room, as well as the professor, turned into frogs. They began croaking and jumping all over the room. Ardor said, Be still. Then all of the croaking and jumping stopped. He then told Oscar, Gather them and bring them to me. Oscar ran around the room and started bringing the frogs to Ardor. Ardor used the podium in the room and with a small dagger started cutting off the back legs of each frog and put them in a cloth sack. He then would put the legless frogs in the scuttle. Oscar didn't notice at first, but then had to ask, What are you doing, Ardor? Why are you cutting off their legs? We must hurry, I will explain later. Oscar brought Ardor, the last frog, and after removing the legs he told Oscar, We must get them to the pond quickly. Oscar, carrying the scuttle, followed Ardor out and through town. They then went to a place that had a pond next to a creek, not far from the town. Ardor instructed Oscar to let them out just by the edge of the water. The legless frogs walked on their front legs until they were in the water. Oscar then turned to Ardor and with amazement said to him, I can't believe we just did that. They are all frogs now. We had to get them to the water. I didn't want any of them to die, you see. Will they live long with their legs gone? Oh, yes. They will return to their human form just as soon as the legs grow back. It's only temporary. They will know what has happened to them. But when they try to explain it, well, why did you cut their legs off? Ha, ha. I gave it some thought, you see. Last night I was trying to decide what I would do. I suddenly felt hungry. It then came to me, Come with me, Oscar. Let's have us a meal of frog legs and fried mush.